It's rolling and we're live. Okay. All right. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Corey. I do the blog Hope is Real at hopepersist.com.
And she's going to be off camera for this, and that's more true to the podcast anyway. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity, if anybody shows up, to have an interaction through chat and also to have quick access to the interview so that you can watch it now. And then later I'll be having the actual audio edited later. So there'll be a camera on me at least. So until then, I saw you with you did the workshop, The Gift of Psychosis, which grabbed me. And so here you are, and you do quite a bit.
I do.
So where would you like to start?
Let's see. I've been a mental health blogger for about 10 years. I finally published a book, Hope is Real, I Have a Purpose, last year. And so this year I've been going all around just sort of trying it and seeing what works out for promoting and getting the word out. I now work as a certified peer specialist for DeKalb County Drug, which is in Atlanta. And it's a program for people with drug charges that have been in jail, but it's a rehab sort of program, and it can be very healing. I perform with the Rise Theater. It's a theater recovery group, and everyone is in some sort of recovery. And we write our own pieces about what we want people to know about recovery or mental health, and then we go perform them. And that was The Gift of Psychosis, was actually a piece that I wrote for the theater, and we performed it at Emory University, which is a college in Atlanta that also teaches a lot of doctors.
Wow. Okay. All right. And so do you want to go ahead and plug you have a blog, you have books, you have plays, you have a YouTube channel. You can go ahead and plug those, and if you write them down, I'll put them in the description too.
Great.
And then you can share kind of some of what you do as much as you're willing to.
Sure. Yeah. All that I do, well, Hope is Real. I Have a Purpose is the name of my book. You can go to my website and buy it that way, or you can go to Amazon. You can also sign up on my website for a mental health newsletter. I send out about every other month that tells where I'm going to be or different tidbits of information. My blog is hopepersists.com. And if you Google Hope is Real, you'll find it that way too. Let's see, I'm with the Rise Theater, which is a really neat organization. And we go around to different recovery rallies, different workshops, and perform, try to energy. And then we do one big performance every year. And those are a lot of fun.
Okay.
Let's see what else.
Are any of those performances available on YouTube?
Not yet, but they're working on it. Okay. So hopefully in a month or two they will be.
Okay. As I know you shared some during the workshop. Yeah. Is that not available on YouTube?
Not available right now. And we're very protective of it because people did spend so much writing their pieces.
Yeah.
But eventually it will go all on YouTube, and then I can give everyone the link and everyone can watch it.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
What you did share was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more, but I'm blanking out.
So you have the blog, you have the book, you have the plays, and then you work in peer support yourself.
Yes. So I work with Drug Court. It's a 2-year program where people that are incarcerated, if they commit to the 2-year program, then at the end of 2 years, they are resentenced, and usually then it's as time served.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a treatment program. They're not in jail, they're in a treatment program, and eventually they get a job and move out. And it's a pretty good program, and I'm really happy to be the peer support person that they finally brought in. And so I get to have, I think, a deeper relationship really on a lot of levels, because the first day I came in, they were pretty resistant, but then I shared my story and they were like, oh, we get you now. And I was totally accepted. So that's really a cool thing that I do.
That sounds great.
And I do remember one thing now.
Okay.
So I started my own business. I can't believe that I forgot that. I must be very tired. But Hope is Real Mental Health LLC. I made it into a business last year when I was working on the book. And so, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so the idea is that I get more opportunities to do art workshops. I love to do art workshops with people. I'm very creative and believing that art heals. Doing speaking. So I actually love public speaking. And I can do all kinds of mental health recovery type speeches. Last year, I developed a workshop of LGBT cultural competency, and I'm going to do that again next month at the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network conference. And so the idea is to sell books, sell art, and do art presentations and money, or vice versa, whichever you would say.
Right.
I'm living the dream, actually, because I'm an independent contractor and I work with the court now as an independent contractor. And so I am actually doing what I set out to do, which is pretty awesome.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I've seen some of I've seen what you did with the play, and that's like beautiful. The ability to get not only your work out there, but to get other people involved in that. Yeah. That's beautiful. And you have a creative mind and a passion. So you have experiences that my heart, I feel very bonded with.
Oh, me too.
And I'm very happy that you're doing what you're doing. I'm from the Northwest, and we have our own kind of play troupe, but we haven't gotten quite to the level that you have. And so, bravo for that.
Thanks. Yeah.
It reminded, I'm not lying, it reminded me of, there's a play that very distinctly beat in my head, but it was a religious play.
Okay.
That would go from city to city to city, that and it's very distinctly burned in my head, but because of the intense emotional impact that play had on me as a teenager, and it was kind of like seeing that, but without the religious notations,
right,
but the intense emotional impact. And you only showed us what, like 3 minutes or something?
right.
But it, like, just seeing that, I wanted to share that because, there were so many people in the room. It kind of felt like I didn't know how to express that at the time.
I wish that I could have shown the whole thing, or at least more parts of it. But without my other cast members there who had written their own piece, we're not at a place where I can share it without them there.
Right.
But I sort of regret, I wish I had started at least with the intro, because how the performance started really was, there was no one on stage. It was just the curtain. And I had written a recovery statement.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was said between 3 people, because we thought, well, there's a lot of ambiguity. What does recovery and mental health mean? And we need to start out with the definition so that people know what we're talking about. And we took the recovery statement that's for the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health. It's actually a really good one, believe it or not. Just because it's government, sometimes they do good writing. But I added on a bit at the end, and I said, however, the whole world needs to recover.
Yes.
And I said, the world needs to repent from its, oh gosh, I don't remember, maybe like from its hard ways, or stigmatizing ways, something like that. But I talked about that everyone, the whole world needs to be in recovery.
Right. I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all have something that we need to recover from.
Right.
We all have a journey to go down.
Definitely.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing public speaking?
About 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I 2009 I became a peer-to-peer facilitator with NAMI. And
I also do NAMI.
okay,
so,
great.
Yay.
And then the next year, I did their In Our Own Voice workshop, which is where you tell your story. It's about an hour long, but it's really mainly to educate. But that really got me started. And at first I was real nervous and sort of clunky, but public speaking, it really telling your stories is very validating.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that they tell me I can't be as open as you are, Corey, because I'm scared of how people will react.
Right.
But I've had nothing but good things. It's very validating because people usually respect you if you say it in a kind way. Don't try to beat someone over the head if they have a disagreement. But if you just say your truth in an authentic way, people are very open to that, I've found.
Right. And being able to do justice to your own experiences without purposefully triggering others, right. I have found. Like walking that balanced line.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I have also, like, I've started learning how to do that, learning how to share my truth. And yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people who would like to be able to share, and NAMI does do that training, and it's a beautiful thing.
It is. Yeah.
I try to give a platform for people to share their story as well. And, I think that there are a lot of really, really amazing people who just need a little bit of encouragement,
right.
and a safe space.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you have a couple of different platforms for that.
Yeah. And there's a program in Georgia called the Respect Institute, and it's similar to NAMI. They both do the same, because with both of those you can go out and actually get paid for speaking. But in theirs, you make it a very polished, professional speech that's 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's used more for board meetings, the beginning of maybe like a government behavioral health board meeting.
Oh, wow.
And they might bring you in, you tell your 10-minute story, and it sort of refocuses the whole meeting on we're talking about people.
Wow.
Yeah. And I tell people I like the NAMI program and the Respect Institute program equally, because they both have very different purposes, but they're both valid purposes. And sometimes I need a long talk, and sometimes I need a short talk. And so I have both to go to.
Learn how to give an elevator speech.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then, so I wasn't as aware of the art, how much you do with art. Kind of art therapy. Would you?
Sure, you can call it. I actually, I first went to college to be an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And then I discovered that I have really, really severe anxiety. And I think now, if they had taught mindfulness skills and deep breathing and all that, maybe I'd be still on the stage in opera. But that didn't work out. But then I thought, well, I'll be a music therapist. And so I went to school for 2 years to be a music therapist. And I got really just burned out.
Wow.
And with music therapy, I was and I've always been an artist. I love to write. I love collage. And sort of the gift, I'm very big in talking about gifts of being on disability, is that it gives me the time to devote to my artwork, which is what I always wanted growing up. And I just thought, well, you have to get a regular job. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of collage. I do a lot of altered books.
Oh.
Yes. And I do a lot of blackout poetry. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay. There's a cool blackout community on Instagram.
Okay.
It's called Blackout Poetry. But it's called blackout because the simplest way to do it is with a Sharpie marker, black marker. And you just black out all the words that you don't want to leave something new.
Okay, I think I was browsing through your
Uh-huh.
Instagram, and I
You probably saw some.
like it looked like you had like drawn hearts over everything except pieces of words as it went down. So yeah, something about loving you, lovingly or something. Yeah. So okay, I like that. I like that.
And the cool thing on Instagram is that it starts out really simply, but then you see people. Whoops! Oh no!
Hi. I'm going to forget that I have a cup there. But I'm going to reach for the phone because now I really want to remember. I'm really glad I had the lid on that.
Me too.
I'm going to reach for your phone because I want to find that particular one.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Okay. So anyway, on Instagram, you can see that people take it from just a Sharpie to like all these really different deep ways. And people also use different like have different themes. So there's one person that does like naughty Emily Dickinson. They're all Emily Dickinson poems, but they're done as erotic.
Wow.
By the way she's blacked them out. There's Bible blackout poetry, which is fun to see someone, and they're progressive. They're not trying to be, and I've done some myself. My favorite, and if you know anything about the Bible, there's a passage about he will crush the serpent with his foot. Basically, it's about Jesus. Anyway, with blackout poetry, I was able to black out the parts and ended up with crush the man.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, yes.
I like that.
I like that. So you get to transform something maybe that to you might be negative or scary or demeaning, offensive, and you can turn it around into something better.
I found the one particularly was thinking of yours is I love you absurdly.
Yeah.
And absurd and Lee being broken from two different words. And do you mind if I?
Oh no, I don't mind at all.
So that's what I mean about the heart. So kind of because it's on a camera. Yeah, but I love that. I love that, and yeah.
And hey, I actually have copies of that to sell. I haven't got it set up on the internet yet, but I have taken that on the road. I have blackout poems that I've made into cards.
That's a genius idea.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to get that because I went to some craft fairs earlier this year. I'm trying to figure out what format works for me. And people were generally not very interested in buying little cards, which I get, I guess. I don't know. I thought it'd be a nice little impulse buy.
Yeah.
Because it's, pretty cheap. But I found that spirituality places I've been doing much better, which is interesting. But I've also have magnets and stickers that I do with blackout poetry. And I've also done.
Cool. I'm hooked on this. Now you've introduced me to a world I didn't know existed.
Right. It sucks you in.
It does.
It's a lot of fun to see all the different things you can do.
Yeah, I've got to put my phone away because that's beautiful. All right.
And I do blackout poetry workshops. I'm happy to do those.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I've taken a book, a theology book that I didn't like that much. So I tore out about half the pages so it'd have more room. And then I completely redid it into a blackout poetry book. So from the whole, from the beginning to the end, it's a whole new blackout book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm pretty proud of those ones that I've done.
That's interesting. So I have done like art books before, where you take the books and you basically just take an old book and you collage the inside of it.
Yeah.
And I've also done the ones where you take all of your old holiday cards and you take a hardback book and you take all the pages out of them and then take all your old holiday cards and use those to make new pages and then collage with those.
Oh, that's cool.
With that one, you use the holiday cards and you do like a blackout poetry type thing because you can reword the holiday cards to make
that's pretty neat.
So the blackout poetry I've only ever seen in that sort of context. So yeah, I would like to pretend. Well, I guess technically I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I don't ever.
We're all artists.
Yeah, I need to put more time into it. This is my art right here.
Yeah.
I collect people.
I like that.
But I paint, and I wanted to do art therapy. I wanted to do pottery.
Oh yeah.
Because my theory was that when you start working through something, you're beating the snot out of the clay.
Right.
And then by the time you've worked through something, you have like something you've created, and then you can choose to either keep or smash it.
I like
depending
that.
on, where you're at.
Right.
So yeah, I think that, art and creativity are beautiful. And one of my groups that I do is at a board game cafe.
Okay.
And we occasionally have young art come there, so that we occasionally come out of our I think that I kind of want to introduce the idea of blackout poetry now. Just like,
it's very simple to get started too. It's one of the most basic ways.
Go buy a couple books from Goodwill and see what happens.
A black Sharpie, and that's all it takes.
That's fantastic. I thank you.
You're welcome.
That's cool. So, and what other fun things do you do? You're introducing me to some fun worlds now.
Well,
I like the way your mind works.
Thank you. It's pretty much always on being creative.
Yeah.
The altered book I'm working on now is a lot of fun. It's a 1950s National Geographic gardening book.
Wow.
Which means it has great pictures, but it's also sort of funny because it's the 50s. And I bought a long time ago at Barnes & Noble's a all-American pinup girl books, and it had pinup art for like the last 100 years. And so I've been taking pinup art and putting it in the 1950s gardens. So you'll flip and there'll be like a flower and the woman's wearing a bathing suit.
I love it.
And I've been able to make it really match up even better than I thought. So like there'll be a woman picking peaches, but she's wearing a bathing suit, a little bikini.
I love it.
But there's actual peaches in the garden book that she's reaching over to pick out.
I love it. That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the different creative ways we can get our minds to focus on.
Right.
I love it. So, and then you work with NAMI.
Yeah.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I know that I do both Hearing Voices Network, National Alliance for Mental Illness.
Okay. Yeah, I do Hearing Voices Network too.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
So
yes.
I know that there are a few people who kind of think that that's a little bit controversial because the acceptance of altered states and altered thinking or alternative behaviors as being acceptable, and then like I guess people don't realize that NAMI is cool with that. Like, NAMI isn't anti-mental health. We're pro-healing.
Right.
And so I was wondering your input. I'm not sure because you're from Georgia, yeah?
Yeah.
So I was wondering what Georgia's NAMI chapters look like or how that works for you.
Well, there is definitely, there's been a sentiment that has been prevalent here of sort of like, we have this viewpoint of NAMI and we're sort of against it. And there is a lot of that feeling in Georgia and peer circles, some of them, but we're working to change that. The past 10 years, I've been involved with NAMI. Is it? Yeah, 10 years exactly. And NAMI has changed dramatically.
Yeah,
like
that's what I found.
It really has. In the beginning, when I first started with NAMI, like I would get triggered sometimes. I'd speak up and I'd say like, hey, I don't like the way you use this language or whatever. And
right.
But I was at a Ending the Silence training, which is a new NAMI program. And at the back of the training was a flyer and it said, this is how we use language. And it had all these tips and it was right on. So they've done a lot of work. And my sort of philosophy is it's a great resource. There's a lot of great resources out there. My story is that I tried everything to figure out what works. And so I sort of take a little bit of everything. I don't go to a lot of NAMI meetings. I don't go to their support groups, but I'll do presentations for them. And I get their materials and I promote it because I think people should know of resources.
Right.
And so you don't have to get totally immersed in a group. Just take from it what works for you. And there's so many affiliates. If one really rubs you the wrong way, just try another one.
Right. Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Hearing Voices Network, I guess the way I've done it, where I just sort of take what works for me and leaves the rest, with that kind of mindset, there's not as much conflict for me.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of animosity is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And I think that it is based on a lot of old philosophies for NAMI.
Yeah.
And a lot of debate about funding and where funding comes from.
Right.
And I facilitate a peer connection group.
Okay, I used to.
And I also am a statewide facilitator trainer for connections groups.
Good for you.
And I'm also a facilitator for, Voices and Visions groups.
Yeah.
So all of my NAMI people also go to my Voices and Visions groups. And ultimately, I also believe that it's all tools.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between vitamins.
Right.
Like, do you like vitamin K, vitamin D, vitamin C? What do you want? I mean, ultimately, what is it that you need?
Mm-hmm.
And you can take some of it now and then decide you don't want to take it anymore.
Right.
And if you need to take it again later, go for it. Because it's up to you. And if the bigger picture is different then than it is now, I'm not going to get in an argument about what it was then.
Yeah. Especially when it was 10 years ago. I mean, it's been a while now.
I wasn't there 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm very new to the peer world.
Oh, okay.
So I've only been around for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Actually, it was Alternatives 2 years ago that introduced me to actually being a part of the movement. And I had only been in a participant in groups for a few months by then.
Oh, okay.
So Alternatives is something really special to me.
I bet.
So yeah. So I'm glad to hear that there's another person who kind of has the same views of it as I do.
Actually have talked to some people here that are in support of NAMI and have sort of been a little saddened at how some things are worded sometimes. One thing that I've really tried, that I really believe in is dialectics, that one thing can be both true and not true at the same time.
Yes.
And which is the exact opposite of all or nothing thinking.
Yep.
And I think in the recovery world, really just across the board, there can be a lot of all or nothing thinking because everyone's very passionate about what their way in recovery is. And you really have to let go of the ego to listen and honor to everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very much, I mean, that's very beautiful way of saying it. And I think that I'm going to have to hold on to that. Because there are a few things that they say you shouldn't talk about, but we end up talking about because you have to honor them. I mean, politics, spirituality, sex, drugs, they are all topics on the table. And I honor the fact that other people's views of it are not my views of it, but they are totally valid views of it.
Right.
And I think there are very, 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 very few things that aren't on that table.
Right.
So yeah. And yet, I mean, I do fully agree that when, I don't know if you went out and did Hill Day, but
I didn't. I wish I had, but I wasn't here in time.
So I participated in Hill Day, and one of the things that gets repeated is that NAMI doesn't speak for us.
Oh.
And I will agree with that. NAMI speaks for NAMI, and
Yeah.
peers speak for peers.
Right.
And I will agree that, the peers need to always be able to speak for their own voice.
That's true.
And that NAMI also has a place at the table, but
Mhm.
that NAMI shouldn't be the only representative of peers at the table.
That's true. Yeah.
So for that, I do agree
Mhm.
in that they should just be one of the
Right,
voices
right.
at the table and not be get NAMI and that counts.
That's it. Yeah.
So, and I think that for that, I do hear that concern.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm very proud of Georgia right now with our peer support. I think we're doing really, really great things. And there's a campaign now. Several of my friends are actually on billboards.
Oh, wow.
It's some recovery initiative thing, but I'm sure the money is from the behavioral health. And it's them with a picture of them with a quote about their mental health and recovery. Like I think one says like, hope is the sun that blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty radical, I think, to have billboards that are about recovery and feature real people.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah. And we have certified peer specialists in Georgia. We ask CARES, which is a certified addiction recovery empowerment specialist.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's basically CPSs mainly are about mental health, but may have addiction. And CARES their first thing is addiction, but they may have mental health. And there's a lot of people who are on both. And the CARES slogan is many pathways to recovery.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and so that's really become a big thing in our culture now of honor all the different ways.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like being able to hear what's going on in our country as a whole. That's part of why I like being here.
Yeah.
Because most of the time I only get to hear about what's going on in Oregon. So I'm glad to hear that things are radically changing in other places.
They really are.
That's beautiful.
The director of the Rise Theater, Alexia Jones, her organization has just become an RCO, Recovery Community Organization. And it's still the same philosophy of many pathways to recovery. Some of us came from the addiction world. A lot of us come from the mental health world. Some people just come from the arts. And but our spirit is sort of, we're all in it together. And so she now has her own place and people can drop in and just do art. Mm-hmm. She holds a lot of different classes. Like there's 12-step yoga and there's art for allies and where they can explore the stigma that they feel and like just all different kinds of programming. And they do art workshops and then we gather to practice for our performances. But that's making a really big change because we're in Atlanta. We are changing the face of the system,
right? And
saying that art counts as one recovery.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Sounds like you guys are actually making some pretty big shifts in
we really
the
are.
entirety
Yeah.
of it. That's awesome.
We I have a friend who did a piece.
Hashtag.
Yes. Schizo awesome.
Yes. I was wearing the pin yesterday.
Oh, good.
And I have it still. I'm going to put it away so that I don't lose it at the airport.
Okay, good.
So I want to make sure to get it home because it's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that actually, I do want to point that out.
Right.
On Instagram and on other platforms, you're right. There are a lot of hashtags that make it in the mental health world.
But none of them address schizophrenia or schizoaffective.
Right.
And it's not that I'm encouraging labels, but just that if we are going to have a diagnosis and all the other ones get a positive label, then this needs to have a positive label too. So I'm making one up.
I like it. So I'll put that on this video too when I get into editing. I'll make sure to throw that on there. And let's celebrate it. So schizo awesome.
Schizo awesome.
Yep. Hashtag schizo awesome. Awesome. All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay. Bye, guys. We'll see you on the next one.